The story of the pet girl of Sakura-su starts with the main protagonist, Sorata Kanda, waking up in his room. He is studying at the Sumai High School and lies in the Sakura Hall dorm, which is considered a den of freaks and intelligent students. When he wakes up, his cat, Hikari, is sitting on his face, and a girl named Misaki is there as well, asleep in his apartment. Misaki loves the notion of being someone's bride when she has grown up. When Kanda wakes her up, all she does is act like a bride. She wants to make tea for him, prepare a bath, or play some games in which they will eventually be naked. Disgusted by all of this, he runs from his room with his school clothing, only to run into his dorm advisor, Chihiro of Sakura Hall, who is wearing extremely provocative clothes as per Kanda's standards. She wore this outfit as she wanted to impress the hot single fathers who would be present at the orientation of the new students. She also tasks him to repair a nameplate outside the dorm house that has gotten loose. While he is fixing the plate, Kanda mentions that Sakura Hall is the collection of all problem kids of the Sumai High School. Kanda then introduces all the students that live in the Sakura Hall with him. First, it's Misake, who is a third-year fine arts student who makes whole anime by herself. Next up, it is Jin Mitaka, who works as a scriptwriter on Misaki's anime and is also really popular among girls. At last, it's Akasaka, who is a genius programmer that has built an ag program called Made to communicate with others. Among all these weird yet intelligent students, Kanda is a normal guy with nothing special going on about him. At the school, Daichi asks Kanda about how it is like to live in a den of freaks whilst being a normal guy. Minami, another friend of Kanda, asks how long he is going to stay in the Sakura Hall. Kanda was forced to live in the Sakura if he wanted to keep the cat Hikari. Refusing to let go of him, he decides to go to the Sakura Hall. However, Hikari brought even more cats with him afterward, and being a cat lover Kanda is, he couldn't deny any one of them. Later, he meets up with Chihiro, and she tells him to go to the train station and pick up his cousin Shina, who is transferred to this school from England. Kanda receives Shina from the police station, and they have a heart-to-heart with each other. Later in the night, Misaki prepares a big feast to celebrate Shina's arrival at the school and Sakura Hall. She even prepared a small anime for Shina to welcome her. However, the anime and the welcome were not even close to relating to each other. The next day, Chihiro tells Kanda to take care of Shina and get her to school. Kanda goes to her room and decides to go in when she wouldn't answer it. Inside, Kanda is surprised to see the whole room in a mess. He checks on her computer and sees that Shina has drawn a manga where she goes to school with a boy and they fall in love with each other. Kanda finds Shina sleeping under a bunch of clothes. He wakes her up only to realize that she is completely naked. He tells her to wear some clothing, but she has a dumb and carefree personality. She doesn't know what is happening around her and doesn't care about it either. She makes Kanda choose all the clothes for him. Kanda has to help her wear her whole school outfit and drag her to school. Kanda holds a meeting with everyone who lives in the Sakura Hall, telling them about he had to help Shina put her clothes on and take her to school. On the way, Shina got lost and Kanda had to spend a lot of time just to find her. He wants everyone to take turns taking care of Shina, but everyone just brushes off his opinions and appoints Kanda as the personal caretaker of Shina. Later, when Kanda is cooking breakfast, Shina comes in front of him and Misaki, almost naked. He takes Shina back to her room so he can help her wear clothes. As they didn't have any breakfast, Kanda and Shina stopped at a shop so they can get something to eat. Shina is unaware of the fact that she has to pay and then eat the food. She starts eating the food right there in the market. However, the situation is taken care of as Nanami works there as a cashier. The duo then goes to school together along with Nanami. On the way, Shina tells Nanami that Kanda is the first boy she has ever been with. Nanami takes it the wrong way and rushes to school on her own. Shina then tells Kanda that she was surrounded by girls back in England, and this is the first time she's become friends with a boy. Kanda complains and tells her that she should have explained the context to Nanami earlier. Later in school, Chihiro tells Kanda that he needs to fill in the career plan form for the school, but Kanda has nothing in his mind about what he wants to do later in his life. In the class, Nanami is still angry at Kanda about what Shina said earlier. Shina visits Kanda's class to tell him that she's going home alone today. Daichi teases him as he has scored with a really cute girl. After school, Shina meets with her manga editor Ayano and walks home with her. Along the way, Shina visits the convenience store that Nanami works at to clear up the misunderstanding that she caused earlier. After she explained it to Nanami, she starts to desperately look at Baumkuchen, but doesn't get any as Kanda told her that she can't eat food without paying for them. However, Ayano buys them for Shina and they both start to eat the Baumkuchen on the way home. At Sakura Hall, Kanda is welcomed by his cat Hikari. As he was petting him, he saw a long trail of cabbages leading up to her room. She arrives at the same time and mentions that today is his birthday and those cabbages were laid down by Misaki, who always does something special for his birthday. Last year, she covered herself in whipped cream for Jin. When Jin and Kanda go to the room, they find a huge present box inside. Misaki pops out of the box almost naked and surprised Jin, who immediately covers her with a blanket as it is turning him on. Kanda goes back to his, leaving the two on their own later. China visits Kanda's room and asks him to follow her in her room. There she asks Kanda to take off her clothes so she can draw a naked man. Despite not agreeing at first, Kanda agrees to get naked under the condition that he will keep his boxers on. China examines her body and starts drawing repeatedly. She then asks Kanda if she has ever been with a girl and tells him that she will not let him sleep the whole night. In the morning, Kanda takes out the trash and meets with Nanami, who apologizes for misunderstanding him yesterday. Later in the Sakura Hall, Kanda finds a really beautiful art in a book. China jumps in from nowhere and says thanks to Kanda for complimenting it. Jin tells Kanda that China made the whole book, which that art is from. Kanda then later searches for China and finds out that she is a really famous art designer and painter from England. Kanda is taking a shower when suddenly China barges in because her shower scenes lack sexiness according to Ayano, and she needs some motivation for it. Later at night, Jin receives a call from the producer of an anime studio thinking that he is Misaki's manager. They want to give Misaki a better script for her next project. When Kanda asks Jin about who he was talking to, Jin tells him that it was from an anime studio that thinks that his script doesn't do justice to Misaki's talents. Kanda has been having an existential crisis since he realized that China is a world-famous painter. He thinks that he is the only one who doesn't have a hobby or a goal in Sakura Hall. Hearing this, Jin says that his ambition to leave Sakura Hall is just a joke. If he has someone to take care of China and adopt the cats, then he will leave. Jin tells him that he will take care of both the cats and China so he can move out. Kanda gets angry and leaves the room afterward, vowing to find new owners for his cats. He then sits on his computer and checks out a game designing audition. He messages Akasaka about what he needs to do in order to be a game designer, however, he doesn't ask about it and changes the topic. The next day in school, Kanda is putting up posters from his cat with Nanami and Daichi. Nanami tells Kanda that she found someone who wants to adopt the cats. Suddenly, China pops up from nowhere and says that she wants to adopt the cats and wants to go out with him on Sunday as he has to be somewhere. However, Kanda declines and tells her to go with Jin instead. Later at home, Misaki tells Kanda that Jin and China are going to a love hotel for a date. They both get freaked out and decide to follow them there. They decide to follow them where they are going. Misaki gets extremely sad seeing Jin with China as she's in love with him for a long time. Misaki starts crying when she sees Jin and China are about to go into the love hotel. Seeing this, Kanda gets angry and decides to punch Jin but gets knocked down instead. He wakes up sometime afterward in China's lap inside the love hotel. There, China tells Kanda that it was all part of Jin's plan, so Kanda will take care of her. China came to a love hotel to get a reference for a scene she wants to draw. Later, he calls Jin to take care of Misaki, however, Jin declines as he can't see her depressed. In the end, Kanda vows to Jin that he will decide what he wants to do in this world soon. Kanda decides to pack his things and plans to move away to the regular dorm rooms. China has been working day and night to finish her manga for a competition. As Kanda is about to leave the house, Misaki stops him and tells him to look at China, who is wearing a yukata. Kanda gets confused and forgets to compliment China, which makes the girls angry. Jin arrives right after and says that they are going to celebrate the Tanabata festival and also gives him a yukata. During the festival, Misaki is playing with the kids and helps them hang their wishes. When Kanda and China are sitting on a bench, the latter tells Kanda that she doesn't want to win the competition using her talent, not a wish. As they were talking, it suddenly started to rain, so they all went back inside. As everyone is drying themselves, China receives a call, telling her that she did not win the competition. Kanda decides to comfort her, but China is having none of it and goes back to her room. Later, Kanda decides to sit under the awning and Jin arrives there soon after with an umbrella. There, Kanda learns that Jin is in love with Misaki but is afraid to let her know about it. When Kanda goes back inside, he finds out that Akasaka has lent him some books relating to game designing. He tells Kanda using his eye maid that he should read these books until he is torn into pieces. The next day, Kanda prepares some breakfast for China and knocks on her door to give it to her. When she doesn't answer the door, Kanda just leaves the breakfast in front of the door. He then goes outside and sees the China wish for his wish to come true. He goes to school later and meets up with Minami. As they arrive, Ayama jumps in from nowhere and takes Kanda to a cafe in her car. At the cafe, she shows the manga to Kanda, which China has made. The manga is based on China's life with Kanda, but the roles are reversed. The manga had a great story according to Ayano, but the ending wasn't good. If she were to change the ending, her manga can be published, but China doesn't want to do it and stay true to the story where Kanda leaves the Sakura Hall. Knowing that it was caused because of him, he goes to school and gives his career plan to Chihiro, saying that he wants to become a game developer. He then goes home and explains everything to Shina. He admits that he just wanted to escape from reality and was afraid of failure. Misaki hears all this as well and wants to go to Kanda, but Jin stops her. While explaining, Kanda sees that the breakfast that he left earlier was still outside. He goes inside Shina's room and sees that she worked all night to get the ending to the manga that she always wanted. He once again explains everything to Shina when she wakes up, and Shina asks him to call her by her first name, Mashiro. Later, Jin and Misaki arrive in the room as well and congratulate Kanda on staying in this Sakura Hall and getting one step closer to be a better version of himself. Some days later, Kanda is shocked seeing that Shina got 0 marks in all of her exams. Shina just wants to design mangas and doesn't care much about anything else. When Jin arrives there, Kanda asks for his help to teach Mashiro. Misaki arrives there as well and tells all of them that the makeup exams for art class are the same as the normal exams. Shina then memorizes all the correct answers with just one glance and is able to answer all of them correctly to Kanda. The next day, Kanda is waiting in a classroom while Shina is giving her exams. Nanami arrives there as well and Kanda gives her a bankuchen to eat as she was hungry. Kanda meets with Shina again after Nanami leaves and sees that she scored perfect in all of her exams. Kanda wants Shina to apologize to every student who actually works hard. On their way home, they see Nanami, who almost passes out due to overwork. After knowing the reason about why she works so hard, Kanda invites her to the Sakura Hall. Suddenly, Shina asks Kanda to call her by her first name again, which causes a misunderstanding for Nanami again. She decides to join Sakura Hall to see if it is actually just a misunderstanding. Later at Sakura Hall, Kanda wants Shina to do her work by herself now as he doesn't want to let Nanami find out that Shina can't even choose the undergarments she wants to wear. The next day, Nanami moves to the Sakura Hall and Misaki immediately starts to go through her stuff. Others arrive there as well, including Shina, who has spilled tea all over her clothes. Nanami drags her back to her room and sees that her room is a total mess. Nanami thinks that a boy shouldn't be taking care of a girl like this, so she decides to be on Shina's duty from now on. Nanami helps Shina through everything and is impressed by her manga designing skills. Kanda is also working on his pitch for the game design competition and shows it to Akasaka for review. Akasaka tells him that it isn't too bad, but he still needs a lot of improvement in most of the departments. At night, Shina arrives in Kanda's room and sleeps with him. Kanda goes out to the dining room and sees Nanami sleeping there. He tries to put a blanket on her, but Nanami unintentionally punches him, thinking that he barged in her room at night. Kanda tells Nanami to stop trying to do everything herself and to stop being so stubborn. Jin arrives there as well and she pushes both of them as she needs to clean the dining room. Jin then tells Kanda that he can't ask a stubborn person why she is stubborn. Nanami wants to be a voice actor and is practicing for an audition with her friends. Back in Sakura Hall, she cooks dinner for everyone and practices even more at night. Elsewhere, Kanda and Jin think that Nanami is being too hard on herself, but Jin doesn't want to interfere and wants to let Nanami be. Kanda then finds out that Jin is planning to leave Sumi and join the Osaka school. Jin tells him to not tell Misaki about this. Back in his room, Kanda is talking to himself about Jin as he was troubled when suddenly Misaki pops out from nowhere. She gets an idea about what is going on and asks Kanda what she needs to do to be Jin's girlfriend. Not knowing what to say, Kanda invites her to play a game with him in order to cheer her up. The next day, Kanda's cat accidentally submits his entry for the competition as he was too afraid to press the button. Meanwhile, Nanami gets a fever from working too hard. On the day of her audition, she tries to sneak out of the house so no one will stop her, but the other find out and reach her just when she was about to fall. They sit at the dining table to discuss Nanami's situation. They decide that they should let her go, but Shina begs to everyone to let Nanami do her audition as she worked too hard for it. Kanda and Shina take Nanami to the audition in a taxi. While she is giving the audition, Kanda finds out that today is the release of Shina's debut manga, but Shina doesn't care about it and is only concerned about Nanami. Nanami arrives after some time and reveals that her audition was a complete failure. She decides to let it all out and jugs Kanda. Later in Sakura Hall, Shina holds Nanami's hand throughout the night. The next day, Jin cooks some food for Nanami and Kanda's hands feed it to Nanami. Nanami then thanks Kanda for everything and decides to give Shina's duty back to Kanda, who then thanks her for relying on him. Kanda's sister Yuki arrives at the Sakura Hall to spend the summer vacations with him as he didn't go to their parents' house. He calls his parents one by one and his mother tells him that Yuko has some questions regarding her career. Yuka also misunderstood his brother's relationship with Shina. Elsewhere, Misaki is taking a driving lesson and is making her teacher terrified because of her recklessness. Later, Nanami goes to Kanda's room and sees Yuka holding onto Kanda's arm. Kanda goes out and sees that the whole house has been flooded with water because Shina broke the bath earlier. After repairing the bath, all the residents of Sakura Hall go to a bath to have a fun time. The next day, Yuka demands Kanda take her on a date. Hearing this, Nanami and Shina tag along as well because they want to date him too. After visiting different places and eating different things, the group accidentally got separated. Kanma searches for Shina and Yuka everywhere and eventually finds them sitting in a set of stairs. The next day, Yuko returns back to Fukuoka where her parents' house is. Before going, she tells everyone that she plans to join the Sumai High School as well. Meanwhile, manages to get a driving license after making the life of her teacher a living hell for the past few days. The next day, Nanami hands over 2 letters to Kanda that were in the mail for him. She's wearing an unusual outfit this time compared to her usual look, which surprises everyone. Kanda opens the first letter from the Game Design Competition Committee and learns that he passed the first round and he will present his pitch on 31st of August. He then opens the other letter, which is from Shina saying that she needs to learn about love while he is in his room. Shino comes and asks Kanda about what love is as she needs to understand it to write a romantic manga. They realize that the Shina serialization meeting is at the same time as Kanda's presentation, so they won't be able to be there for each other. Afterward, Nanami comes into Kanda's room as well and tells Shino to get out as she isn't wearing any pants. After he is done with them, Kanda asks Akasaka's advice on how to give a presentation. He tells Kanda to wear a suit and practice by giving the presentation multiple times to everyone at Sakura Hall. The next day, Kanda gave a presentation to everyone. However, it was a failure, so he promised to rewrite it and get better the following days. He gives a presentation each day for the next 10 days until his final presentation is perfected. On the day of the presentation, Shina gives a lucky charm to Kanda that she bought all by herself. At the presentation, Kanda meets with his idol Kazuki Fujisawa. Kazuki gives him a question which causes Kanda's mind to go blank. He was so out of confidence that he couldn't give the rest of the presentation properly, which resulted in his game not getting accepted. He goes back to Sakura Hall and cries while sitting on the pouch. Shino arrives and tells him that she succeeded in her thing. As he was disheartened, Kanda didn't want to hear anything and made Shino go back to her room. Elsewhere, Jin and Misaki are planning a pool party to welcome Nanami to Sakura Hall and console Kanda. Nanami doesn't agree with the plan because of Kanda's mood, but surprisingly, Kanda says that he wants to go, so Nanami has to tag along as well. The group goes to the pool in school secretly and is having a fun time there. As they were cooking some sukiyaki, the school guard detects them and starts to chase them. All of them start to run until the guard is out of their sight. When they get outside the school, Nanami asks Kanda if he is sad or not. Kanda tells her that he is indeed sad, but he'd rather be happy and try over and over again instead of losing his heart. As the fireworks start to explode in the city, the group starts to run again as the guard manages to close in on them. In the end, Nanami tells Shino that she is starting to understand what love feels like. Kanda wakes up in his room to see Misaki and Shino painting on his walls. At school, the class started to make rumors about Nanami and Kanda as they started to live under the same. As the two were pretty embarrassed by this, Daichi tries to defend both of them, but unluckily, a new rumor starts to develop in class, and they think that Kanda and Daichi are in a gay relationship. At night, while everyone is sitting at the dinner table, Nanami addresses everyone about how the lifestyle of this place is the reason for the rumors that are being developed in school. She wants to fix the way they live in Sakura Hall and make it a better place. As they were talking, the doorbell rings and Kanda goes to check it out. He opens the door and sees Rita Ainsworth, who was the former roommate of Shino in English. Seeing Rita, Shino immediately hugs Hum as she was the one that was on Shino duty back in England. Rita then tells everyone that she has come to Japan to take Shino back to England. However, Shino doesn't want to go with her and shuts the door on her. Feeling bad that she is outside alone at this time of hour, Kanda goes out and takes her inside. Rita wants to sleep in Kanda's room. He refuses at first, but eventually agrees when Rita promised to tell him all about Shino when she was in England. In the morning, Rita was sleeping on top of Kanda and refused to let go of him. Everyone soon arrived and saw them in this awkward moment. Everyone started to think that Kanda is on Rita's side now, and they started to argue. The argument was stopped by Akasaka, who finally came out of his room. He then introduces himself to all the new members of Sakura Hall as he never saw them in person. The next time they are in school, Akasaka is typing loudly on his laptop while eating tomatoes. The teacher was distracted by this and told him to keep it quiet if he finally came to class after 5 months. Akasaka tells her that he only comes to meet the minimum attendance requirements and that if she wants him to give attention to her, she should teach her something interesting. Hearing this, the teacher got even more infuriated. After a few random events, everyone starts to discuss an upcoming cultural festival in Sakura Hall. Misaki and Jin are tasked to handle the festival as they will graduate at the end of this term. Everyone divides the labor with their respective role. Kanda suggests something that will include everyone in the audience to participate. He makes a really good suggestion, and everyone there agrees to make him the leader in this project. Later, Shino arrives in Kanda's room and tells Rita to stay in her room so Kanda can live in peace. Rita agrees as long as Kanda will take her on a date. Afterward, Rita takes Kanda to a hotel for their date in order to show him the last art that Shino made before coming to Japan. Kanda finds the picture so beautiful that he is starting to understand why Rita wants to take Shino back to England so she can create art again. Kanda is struggling to act as the lead for the game Mayabaran that they are developing. Rita is also in his room playing video games, which is distracting him a lot. He asks Rita about why she decided to stop making art, but before she could answer, Shino enters the room and gives the character designs to him. At the rooftop of their school, everyone discusses the project that they are making. The student council has requested a presentation from them in order to perform at the festivals, and they need more drawings to be completed in 2 days. Thinking that they need another person that can make art as good as Shina, they decide to approach Rita. However, she refuses and she's that she has already quit making art. She then tells everyone that she gave up on art because of how good Shino was. Everyone in the studio where she and Shino used to work left because of how good Shino was. After she finishes her ranting, Akasaka gives her a harsh reality check by saying that she has no will of her own. Rita gets infuriated because of this and runs away. Kanda, Shino, and Nanami chase after her in the rain and find her sitting on a bench. Shino and Rita finally agree to their mistakes and express their love for each other. Later, the project is done amazingly, and they give their presentation as well, resulting in their project being approved. Afterward, they held a party in Sakura Hall to celebrate this achievement. There, Rita tells Akasaka that she finds him interesting, but Akasaka runs to his room as he is gynophone. Jin and Kanda haven't slept for days because of working on Nayaburo. Misaki brings them a bottle of energy drink so they can feel better. Shino dresses like a cat, and Misaki wears a bear costume for their exhibit in the school as the cultural festival has started. In Sakura Hall, Rita is starting to spend more and more time in Akasaka's room even though he doesn't like it. Luckily, he is saved when the rest of the group returns back. That night, all of them are doing their part in completing the game. At some point in the night, Kanda sees Rita calling someone. She tells Kanda that Shino needs to return to England as her father and the rest of the family are waiting for her. The next day, Akasaka agrees to wear a maid outfit as long as he gets to stay in one place. Thinking that the climax of their game is too dull, Kanda decides to attend Kazuki's speech for inspiration as per Akasaka's suggestion. After he is done, he is told by Shino that Jin is with Fuka, who is his ex-girlfriend and the elder sister of Misaki. They reach there and see Misaki watching them from a distance. As they were talking, Misaki hears that Jin will go to Osaka next and leave Sume. She runs away and Kanda chases after her and apologizes for not telling her this. However, Misaki isn't much fazed by it as she thinks that if a lover has a will, they can transcend distance and meet each other despite the inconveniences. In the prep room, Shino is sleeping on Kanda's shoulder. Kanda suddenly realizes that Shino made her manga based on what she wanted to happen in Sakura Hall. He meets with everyone and says that he has a perfect idea for the climax of their game. He wants to make the audience chant their positive feelings for someone loudly, which will fill the special ability of the main character in Nyabaran game. Later, he receives a text from Shino, who wants him to stay with her until she falls asleep. As Kanda and Shino are laying in bed waiting to fall asleep, the former finally decides to confess to Shino, but he realizes that she fell asleep while he was confessing. At the theater, where the group will be presenting the Nyabaran game, Chikori finds a seat beside her old friend Kazuki, who also happened to be a former Sakura Hall resident. Nanami is doing rehearsals backstage as she is the one representing the game in front of the audience. When the show starts, the audience are made to contribute with glow sticks that were in their chair. In the finale, all the students are supposed to express their feelings, but the audience gets confused and doesn't know what to do. Seeing this, Shino steps up and thanks Kanda for everything. After this, everyone started to stand up and the show became a huge success. After the show, Jim gives a necklace to Misaki that he bought earlier for her. They then see Rita and Shino heading to the airport in a taxi. Nanami tells Rando that she can't find Shino anywhere, but he hesitates to do anything, so Nanami forces him to go after Shino as she knows how much Kanda likes her. As Nanami was searching inside the school building for Shino, Daichi confesses his love for her. Nanami rejects him as she can't decide properly at this moment. Afterward, they are told by Misaki and others that Shino went to the airport with Rita. They reach there and realize that Shino just went there to see Rita off. Rita thinks that Shino truly belongs to Sakura Hall. Before she went, Akasaka gave an email address to Rita as she requested it earlier. She reads the email and realizes that it is actually Kanda's email address, but she is still happy and gives him a kiss. In the end, Shino feels weird in her chest and wonders if it is love that she is feeling. That's all for today. How do you think the story of the pet girl Sakura proceeds from this point? Let us know in the comments down below. Do leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content.